Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, you are not audible. Hello, ma'am.
Not audible?
Now it is audible.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Fine. Okay. So for these two sentences that you see in the chat, you have subordinate clauses in these sentences. And the first one, learning a foreign language, and the second one, dressed in new clothes. In the first case, what you have is called a present participle, right? Present participle form of the verb, right? This is learning. And then in the second one, you have the past participle form, um, which is called the so present participle learning and past participle dressed, right? So the difference or what is special about these two things, right? Although they are forms of verb, both present participle and past participles, they're forms of verbs, right? Present participle may not be too familiar to you. Most of the people are familiar with past participle forms, right? The V3 form. So there's also something that we call as the present participle, which has the ing form, right? Ing form of the verb, or ed form is the past participle. So both these forms of the verb, they are known to have no tense on it. So don't get you know um, misled by the terms present participle and past participle. This is an obsolete term. So in traditional grammar books, people have referred to them as present and past for reasons that are unknown to us in the present day. We do not know why they were referred to as the present or the past participle, but remember that they've got nothing to do with present and past participle. We do not use these terms anymore in modern linguistics, but because most of us have probably in our schools learned them as past participle and present participle, just for the ease of understanding, we've used these terms now. But keep in mind that it has got nothing to do with past or present, right? So they do not have any tense on them. they are incapable of showing you the tense of the sentence. If you look at the sentence closely, you will understand what do we mean by that, right? My hunch is probably they called it present participle or past participle because these forms, the ing and the ed infinitival forms, they mostly appeared in the past tense sentences and present tense sentences. Like, for example, look at the sentence, learning a foreign language is not easy. The sentence itself in present tense, but this present tense, the understanding that the sentence is in present tense doesn't come from the participle. It comes from the verb is. Okay. You have the main verb is, and that is what is telling you that the sentence is in present tense. Similarly, in the second one, dressed in new clothes, Simona and Ravi strolled through the streets. This one, strolled is the verb, right? It's the main verb and it is in past tense. So this is how you know that the sentence itself is in past tense and it doesn't come from your subordinate clause, dressed in new clothes, or more particularly from the word dressed, which is in the participle form. So probably because this ed form and ing form, they appeared in the present tense, past tense sentences, they thought it is okay to name it present participle and past participle. But remember that the word in itself, learning or dressed, they do not themselves have got anything to do with past and present. In fact, these verbs forms don't have any tense on, right? And that's the reason we call them infinitival. Okay. This is about the infinitival clauses in English. And then there's one more, which is the to infinitive form, right? So whenever you have to plus bare form of the verb, right? Anything, it could be eat, run, drink, jump, anything. Whatever the verb is, if it comes with to plus the bare form of the verb, then that is also called an infinitive form of the verb, which means it doesn't have a tense on it, right? These are the three major categories of non-finite or infinitive or infinitival forms in English language. And whenever one of these appear as a part of the clause, right, in our sentences, that clause or that particular subordinate clause is then referred to as the infinitival clause. Okay. Is it clear, or do you want any clarification on that? Yeah, is that fine? No.
Ma'am, can you please repeat? Uh,
What do you want me to repeat?
Ma'am, I have joined late. That's why
But
I'm
you were
saying.
there in the past 2-3 minutes, no? You were online, so I did not say anything before that. This is all. Have you understood what we were discussing now?
Uh, Infinite clauses. I
Yes,
think.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
All you need to know is what are the three kinds of infinitival clauses you have. I mean, what factor in the clause makes it infinitive? So you have three forms. One is if it has a present participle or the ing form. Second is if it has the past participle or the ed form. And the third is the to infinitive form. If you have any of these three elements in your clause, then that is going to make it infinitive. Right? That's the point that I was saying. Is that understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so we go to the question straight away and see what it has uh, to tell us. So question number one, we're going to make an identification on whether the given subordinate clause in the sentence is infinitival or does it have tense, which means if it has a tense, it could be either of the three, right? Noun or adjectival or adverbial. So our task is to figure if the given subordinate clause is infinitival or not. Okay. So then the first question you have is, I think that this boy is innocent. So first thing first, the first task is to identify the subordinate clause and then look for whether it is infinitival or not. And how do you do that? You will have to check whether the verb in the sentence, sorry, the verb in that particular subordinate clause carries tense or not. Okay, that's the task. So how about the first sentence then? I think that this boy is innocent. So what is the subordinate clause first of all in the sentence?
This boy is innocent.
That this boy is innocent. Okay, so that should be your subordinate clause. And is this particular clause finite or non-finite?
This is finite. Yeah.
This is finite because if you look at the subordinate clause, that this boy is innocent. This boy is innocent is something that carries the verb is, right? And is has a tense, right?
Yes.
I think that this boy is innocent because that sentence is something that has a finite verb which carries a tense on it. This clause is also finite. Okay, that is how you analyze it. Then, if you go to question number 2, right? I want him to pick up the order. I want him to pick up the order. So, what is your subordinate clause? First of all, you need to identify your subordinate clause and then look for.
Ma'am, to pick up the order.
Is that your subordinate clause? How about him? I want him to pick up the. I do not know if this was explained to you. So these kind of sentences are called small clauses. I don't think you have that for your syllabus, but I want him to pick up the order. So him to pick up the order, right? This is your subordinate clause because look at the sentence structure. You have I, which is your subject, right? This is your subject, and then you have want, which is your verb. And then the rest, what you have here is the object of the verb want, right? It's in the clause format. Him to pick up the order. So I ask the question, I want what? And the response would be, I want him to pick up the order, right? So him to pick up the order is your subordinate clause. Now, is this finite or non-finite? Him to pick up the order.
Ma'am, non-finite.
So this is non-finite. Why is it non-finite?
because of the
Ma'am,
too big.
tense is not visible in the sentence.
Tense is not visible, and what do we have? Someone else was answering.
To
It's
pick
too
up.
big.
Because you have the uh, to infinitive form of the word to pick up, right? So this is again something that doesn't carry tense on it. Hence, this particular clause is infinitival. Okay. So I want him to pick up the order. This is also an example of an infinitival subordinate clause. Next one, I want to go to Dehradun.
Ma'am, in the previous question, is the verb to pick or to pick up? Like, what should be the
Sorry,
in
come
the
again.
second sentence?
Huh.
The infinitive is to pick or to pick up. Like,
To pick up. To
okay,
pick up. Yeah. So pick up is basically a phrasal verb, right? So it has two constituents, but put together, you don't. If you're asked about the verb, then the verb is pick up. Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So to pick up is your infinitive. Yeah. Right. Okay. Third one, I want to go to Dehradun.
Ma'am, infinite clause, and
This is
it
in.
is because tense is not mm,
Okay.
appear,
So this is
appearing in the sentence, and
right. So this is a non-finite clause because you have your subordinate clause is to go to Dehradun, right? And which is basically a to infinitive form, to go, right? To go. The second to is what? It's a preposition. It's not part of the verb. To go is your infinitive. And since you have an infinitive, this is a non-finite clause. Okay. Then fourth one, I wonder where she lives. I wonder where she lives.
finite.
This is finite because you have a question
Where
clause.
she where she lives, tense is appearing in the sentence.
Correct. So it has in your subordinate clause, which is a question clause in this case, where she lives. Okay, a question clause, which is also a noun clause. So since lives in the subordinate clause is in present tense, it carries a tense, right? So this one is then a finite clause, finite subordinate clause. Okay, fifth one. Could you tell me if he would be here on time? Could you tell me if he would be here on time? This is an
Finite.
interrogative sentence, and this is something that carries an if clause, right? Could you tell me if he would be here on time. So if you're going to parse it, then it is, could you tell me what? Could you tell me if he would be here on time? So if he would be here on time is basically your subordinate clause. Now you need to analyze if the sentence carries a finite verb or a non-finite.
Finite
Ma'am,
verb.
ma'am, finite clause, ma'am.
This is a finite clause, right? So it has if he would be here on time. So if I have to change this to, from this to say future or present, then I can change it, right? There is a possibility for me to use tense in this and then change it. Okay, if he would be here on time, this is a finite clause. Okay. Now, sixth one, I want her to meet with him. I want her to meet with him.
Ma'am, finite.
Infinite clause.
Yeah, this is again non-finite, right? So this is very similar to the sentence number 2, right? So I want him to pick up the order. I want her to meet with him. All we did is basically just flip the gender. That's all. I want her to meet with him. So her to meet with him, this is your subordinate clause, right? And since you have to meet, which is your infinitive form of the verb, then this has to be a non-finite clause, right? So no tense in the subordinate clause because you have to meet. So this is also an example of a non-finite subordinate clause. Seventh one, I would like her to see what she wrote in the exam. I would like her to see what she wrote in the exam.
Infinite clause.
So what is the subordinate clause in this sentence? I would like her to see what she wrote in the exam.
Her to see what she wrote in the exam.
Her to see what she wrote in the exam. So that whole chunk is your subordinate clause, right? Now there is embedding in this. There's another embedded clause within clause. Her to see, and then what she wrote in the exam is embedded within the larger subordinate clause, her to see what she wrote in the exam. Now, which part of this is infinite?
The complete her to see what she wrote in the exam is.
So this one, that particular chunk, her to see what she wrote in the exam, that is your infinitable subordinate clause. What she wrote in the exam, that is finite. Okay. So this one, the one that is marked in red here, this one is what? This is a finite clause. Okay. But the whole of this, her to see what she wrote in the exam, this one is a non-finite clause, right? Because the verb of that clause is to see, and that is non-finite, it is to infinitive. So this whole of it, this subordinate clause is non-finite, whereas the one in red, what she wrote in the exam, this is a finite clause. Okay. Now, last one here, I believe you did not read the whole story. I believe you did not read
Ma'am,
the.
finite clause.
So what is your subordinate clause here?
You
did not.
You did not read the whole story, right? And this is clear cut. This is a sentence in past tense. So obviously this one has a tense in it, and then this is a finite clause. Okay. Okay. All right. So the only point you need to keep in mind are what are the three different kinds of infinitive markers. One is the present participle or the ing forms of the verb. Second is the ed or the past participle forms of the verb. And the third one would be the to infinitive forms of the verb. Okay. So when you have, I think this exercise did not have examples from ing and ed, but I think I discussed it with you, right? The two sentences that we had in the chat. So if you have sentences like that with the ing and ed, even those would be classified as infinitive, right? But otherwise, everything else which carries a tense, any subordinate clause which has a verb which carries a tense would be finite. Okay. So just keep this in mind. This is not very difficult to understand. Now we go to the last leg of that, which is the grammatical subject. Okay, and that clauses. So that clauses, like the title of the suggested. So we we're going to look at this one a little more in particular. So that clause is a very, very commonly found subordinate clause, which means you can have a that clause as the subject of the sentence. You can have a that clause as the object of a sentence. That clause can also appear as adjectival clause when you want to add additional information about a given noun, right? So it is the more prominent and commonly found kind of subordinate clause, or the more abundantly found one in the language. But sometimes, like I told you last class, I think quickly we did discuss, people do get confused between that clauses that are the subjects, which are part of the subject, and that clauses which are not part of the subjects, right? So since that clauses are very commonly seen in the subject position of the sentence, sometimes even when they're used as an adjectival clause, people mistake it to be, a part of the subject. So we have some examples for that as well. We'll take a look at it. But why should we look at that clause more seriously than we do, is the reason that they can cause confusions, particularly when used in the subject position as the subject itself, or as the adjectival clause associated with the subject, right? So we should be able to make this distinction between when that is used as an adjectival clause, modifying the given subject, and when it is a part of the subject itself, right? So this distinction is important so that we don't commit any error. For that purpose, that clause is more important to take a look at. So we look at these examples, the sentences, the questions that we have here. The task is to identify the subject in all the sentences, okay? And grammatical subject only. Grammatical subject means the ones that you can point out in a sentence, not the logical ones, right? Like in imperative sentences, right? So in imperative sentences, you don't have a clear-cut grammatical subject. It is always implied, right? So if I say, close the door, right? I don't have a grammatical subject in that sentence, but I know that there is a logical subject, which is you, right? So the question here, it mentions grammatical subject only in the brackets because you pick out the subject that is visibly available in the sentence. Do not answer the implied subjects, okay? Like in the case of an imperative sentence. So let's start with the exercise. I think you'll understand it better once you start looking at the questions. Now, first one, it was made clear that the exam would be held in the month of June. What is the subject of this sentence? It was made clear that the exam would be held in the month of June.
It.
Ma'am, the exam.
It is the subject, right?
You tell me. You have to do the dissection, right? You have to see what is the subject, what is the verb, what's the object.
So we can see like what was made clear that the exam would be held, and it.
What
The
was
answer is
made
it.
at the exam? No, I don't know if you can ask the question with what. See, the question with what is usually for the object of the verb. It's not for the subject. No, just do a straightforward analysis. No, you look at what is my subject, what is my main verb of the sentence, and what is the object of the sentence. You will get your answer.
Made
So
is the
what
verb.
was made clear? What was made clear? That the exam would be held in the month of June, right? So this is clearly the object of the sentence, right? Was made clear is your verb. It's a serial verb. It's a compound verb. But was made clear is what? It's your verb of the sentence. That the exam would be held in the month of June. So it was made clear that the exam would be held in the month of June. That's the object. So then subject has to be what? It, right? It. So it's a very clear sentence, right? Don't get confused by the length of the sentence. Every time you have a sentence, just break it down into subject, verb, object, right? See what is, or before looking at anything else, look at what is the verb, the main verb of the sentence. That will give you a fair idea of which part is the object and which part is the subject.
Ma'am,
Okay.
here is clear part of the verb, or is it has some
Ah,
other role?
no, it's part of the verb. Was made clear.
Okay.
Part of the verb. Okay. So this is basically a passive verb. This is not an active form of the verb. This particular one follows a passive morphology, which is why was made clear. Okay. But still, it's a verb. Passive or active, it's still verb. Okay.
Okay.
Second one, the board made it clear. Okay. The board made it clear that students would not be allowed to write the exam without the hall ticket.
The board.
The board, right? The board, same thing, except now that we are using it in the active form, right? It was earlier was made and in the passive morphology. Now you have it in the active form. So the board made it clear that students would not be allowed to write the exam without the hall ticket. That students would not be allowed to write the exam without the hall ticket clearly becomes your object. The board is your subject. Okay. Third one, take the cup from him. Take the cup from him.
There is no grammatical subject.
Right. We don't have any grammatical subject. We do have a logical subject, which is you, but then if you're asked about identification of subject in the sentences, even if it's in the exams, understand that we are talking about grammatical subject. Okay, we're not talking about a subject that you can guess from the context or a subject that is implied. Okay, something grammatical subject is that which is clearly visible in the sentence structure. So here we do not have any. This is an imperative sentence. Take the cup from him. This lacks a subject, right? There's no subject, no grammatical subject in that sentence. Now, fourth one, that she wrote so much in a less time surprised us. That she wrote so much in a less time surprised us.
That she wrote so much in a less time.
Right. So now this is a that clause, which is a part of the subject, right? So that clause itself is the subject here, right? Your main verb here is surprise. Us is your object, and then that clause, which is that she wrote so much in a less time. This particular that clause becomes the subject of your sentence. Okay. So first case of where that clause is used as a subject. Okay. The clause itself is the subject of the sentence. Fifth one, that Mary could dance so well was rather a shock.
That Mary could dance so well.
Yeah. So that again, same thing, right? The that clause itself becomes the subject of the sentence. That Mary could dance so well, right? Was is your main verb. Rather is adverb, and a shock is again your object, right? So that Mary could dance so well. This is your subject. That clause is the subject of the sentence. Sixth one, the belief that one should not let women study is unacceptable. The belief that one should not let women study is unacceptable.
Then the belief.
The belief.
A belief. So this is the place where you have to be careful, right? A lot of people would go ahead, mark the belief that one should not let women study. This is not your subject, right? Only this part, the belief is your subject. Because in this case, that clause is not your subject clause. This is basically an adjectival clause to the noun, the belief, right? That one should not let women study. This is something that, this is not even an adjectival clause. This is actually that clause that is indexed, co-indexed with the subject, the belief, right? The belief that one should not let women study is unacceptable. So the belief and that one should not let women study, they're one and the same, right? They talk of each other. So whether I say the belief is unacceptable or whether I say that one should not let women study is unacceptable, they mean the same thing. There's a co-indexation between both of them. So in the sentence, the belief is your subject. Okay. You don't choose that clause in this one because this is just an extension of what it is and it's not the actual subject of the sentence, right? Now, if I, one second, that one should not study. Okay. Now, last one here. The fact that the climate is rapidly changing is worrying.
The fact.
The fact. The same thing, right? Very similar to sentence number 6, where that the climate is rapidly changing is co-indexed with the noun, the fact, right? So since when you're talking about now, you could always ask if they are one and the same, then why is it that we choose the belief as the subject and the fact as the subject, and not that the climate is rapidly changing, or that one should not let women study as the subject, right? If they are one and the same, if they're co-index, what is the reason that we do not choose the that clauses, but we go for the nouns? Why do you think we are doing that?
Because the sentences in English always starts with a subject.
That is okay. Sentences in English always start with a subject, that is right. But if I'm saying that one should not let women study and that the climate is rapidly changing, they're not even adjectival clauses, right? If they're adjectival, then it is fine. It's a different story. It's a different kind of clauses. We call them the noun clauses in apposition. They are co-indexed with the subjects, in fact, right? But there should be a reason why we are not choosing that and we're choosing the belief or the fact as the subject. Why do you think that is the case? Think about it. You can take some time, then maybe a minute or so. Just take a closer look at the sentence and try and answer. Try to conceptualize, right? These are all more than knowing what which part is what. These are also some conceptual questions in the language, right? Why we opt one part as a subject and we do not opt for the other one. These are all part of conceptual understanding. So it's always nice to ask these questions.
So,
Because see, one very clear, there are other reasons we are not going to get into the details of it, but one clear cut reason is that um, the subjects always they align or they nest for what whenever they're looking for, you know, in a sentence, when you're looking for a subject, you usually nest for the nouns, right? So when you have a clear cut noun in a sentence, usually the tendency is to pick that up. So among the two that you have here, although that one should not let women study, this subordinate clause has nominal qualities. You have a noun which already is taking up that role, and it's easier for the sentence to, you know, to entail its subject from that noun than, you know, looking at a clause, right? So this is basically the economy process in, you know, in the turn. So language always tries to pick up something that is more economical, that is easier for it to analyze, or rather, let's say the brain does it that way, not the language itself. So logically, if you look at it, this is more, you know, more economical to use the noun as the or the head noun as the subject of the sentence than looking for a clause, right? A very simple reasons, very practical reasons for why we choose this as a subject. Okay. Mm, right. So please make a note of these kind of sentences. all you have to do is just be a little careful about what kind of that clauses you have, whether it is whether the clause itself is acting as the subject, which is possible, and if there is anything else that is acting as a head noun, as in the case of the belief and the fact, make sure that that is chosen as a subject. Okay. Okay. So any questions on this one, or can we move on to the other worksheet with the passive voice questions?
Ma'am, in that 6 and 7, we can't use those two noun interchangeably, right?
In 6 and 7, which noun? The belief and the fact?
Yeah, the belief, and then
Ah,
that one should not let women study.
ah,
Those two, you said like kind of act like a noun, right? Like
hmm.
can we use them interchangeably like that?
You mean that one should not let women study comes first and the belief
Yeah,
later?
belief, yeah.
I do not think so, because that will make it grammatically wrong. That one should not let women study. No,
It's not like that. Like one should not let women study. That belief is unacceptable.
no. So then you are changing the entire structure of the sentence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I don't think we allow that kind of constructions in written English. Okay. Maybe informal spoken language can use it that way, but mostly in written English, that's considered a wrong form of construction. This is what we refer to as fragments. Okay. So fragments are not technically allowed in the formal English, but yes, very informal situations, people may break it down. One should not let women study, comma, the belief is unacceptable or something of that sort, right? That is more of spoken language than written. But any formal, so when we deal with grammar, we are mostly looking at the natural uh, variety of the sentence or phrase or clause. Okay, not the ones that are uh, meant for informal situations.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, if you don't have any more questions, we'll move on to the next. Where is it? Exercise. This is in active and passive. So we're going to, just briefly look at a few sentences, some 10, 12 of them. We all know how it is constructed, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. But since it's a part of the syllabus, I thought it's worthwhile to at least solve a few questions. Just give me a moment. I'll share that document with you. Uh, yeah. So, so in case of the active and passive sentences, I think what is important for us to know are few things. First of all, the morphology of the verbs, right? So when you're constructing a passive sentence, it's very important that you understand the passive morphology, how your passive morphology works, right? Passive morphology simply means how your verbs transform into a different form as you convert from or as you move from the active or the passive, uh, active to the passive format, right? Passivizations, usually, if you look at it functionally, it could have any function. I mean, the reason could be purely, social to strategic, right? Sometimes passivization is used because you want to be more strategic about the message that you want to communicate. Sometimes it is because of the social contexts that are involved, that you're involved in, right? But in any sense, as the name suggests, passivization is basically passivizing the agent, right? To make the agent passive, to make the doer of the action passive. Uh, Passive means less relevant, right? Less important, less serious, right? The reasons for passivization could be several, like I told you. It could either be social, it could be more strategic in nature. And more importantly, there are specific domains where passivization or passive writing is very common. One, of course, is the media, right? So, because most of what we see in media is reporting, the function is to report. And the news or the message that they have to convey, most of the times, they could be incomplete, right? So, I mean, in the current world, we live in a very fast world. So, a lot of the credits that's given to the media depends on who reports on what first, right? So you hear about the media persons have a habit of saying exclusive on our channel or on our show. So the problem with this exclusive and then running to get it published first is also that you do not have all the necessary information that is required to complete the message, right? So in such cases, they have to be very careful about how they word their message, how they word the information, right? And to avoid any legal consequences later, to avoid any factual incorrectness later, the media usually prefers, unless of course it's a studied report or something, usually the media prefers using passive language, right? Which is suppression of the agent, right? So if there's a murder that's committed or if there's some other criminal charge that is um, um, seen against a certain person, irrespective of who the stature of the person. Okay, now this is you do not want to think that this is only applicable to people who are in power or people who are wealthy, so on and so forth. Irrespective of what your hierarchy, economical hierarchy you fall within or social hierarchies you are within, this is the standard procedure that the media uses, right? So in the initial phases of the reporting, they never tell you who the suspect is, right? So who are they charging or pressing the charges on? So if there's a report on murder, if there's a report on robbery or a report on corruption, mostly if you look at the news, you see that the reports are always in the passive voice. Okay? So that is the practical function of passivization that you see in languages. Apart from media, we also use passivization in our own personal lives, right? Say you want to tell on somebody, right? So you say, I won't say who it is, but I have something to convey. So if you have that kind of a situation, that kind of a message to convey, then if you notice yourself, your speech, then you will see that you're using a lot of passive sentences instead of active sentences. Why? Because you do not want to reveal who you're talking about. You do not want to let out who the person involved is, right? So it's also applicable to our personal life, not just media or formal domains. So this is more or less the function of passive voice, right? Now, if you look at the technical part, the language and the technical part of passive voice, especially in English, the passive morphology is usually be, that is be verb, right? Be plus the rest of the verb, right? The passive morphology. So if you look at the example that you have on screen, opens, right? For example, if you have a verb like opens, now this is in simple present tense, right? So passive morphology, when applied to a verb like open, it changes to is or are open, right? Is or are open. Now, what is this is or are? This is the be form of the verb plus ed. And what is this thing? This is the V3 form or the past participle form. So that is how the passive morphology in English is classified. Usually the root form that you give for the passive morphology is be plus the V3 form or the past participle form. Okay. Be plus the past participle form, V3 form. So if you look through that table, you will see the same thing happening to all the tense forms, right? So this one is present tense. Opens is in simple present tense. So there the change is that when you use it in the be plus V3 form, in present tense, be would be is or are, right? Sold is in past tense, right? Simple past tense. So this one, your be is going to be was or were, and then the past participle form, which is sold. This is what form of tense is this? Is are seeking? This is present continuous, right?
Continuous.
Yeah. Present continuous, what happens in the other format? Sorry, in the passive morphology, you have an addition being, right? So is are, be is changed to is are being sought. Sought is again what? It is the V3 form of seek. So is are being, right? Then here you have the has, had, have, given, right? Which is what form? This is the present or past perfect form, right? Present and past perfect form you have. And that changes to what? Been plus V3, right? Has, have, had, been plus the V3 form. And then you have the last one, which is the future form, simple future, right? That changes to will be delivered, will be delivered. Okay. So I have not included other forms here like the future continuous, future perfect continuous and all that, because the passive format of future continuous, future perfect continuous is nearly impossible, right? It's tough to have that kind of a formulation. So we have not used anything that is non-practical for our purpose of language, right? Mostly the passive forms will oscillate from the present tense, simple present past tense to the present past continuous and the present past perfect. Mostly that is what you see, and also the simple future. But other forms, given the complexities of those structures and the impossibility of something like that in real life, usually even if the formula for that is available, you will rarely hear people making sentences like that. Okay, so that's the point here. We will quickly look at okay, one more point here with respect to passive voices, that when you're making passive form of a sentence, it's very important that you know the nature of the verb involved. Okay, so passive sentences, passive format is only possible if your verb, the verb of your sentence is transitive, right? Only if the verb of your sentence has an object, then you can have a passive sentence, right? So along with passive morphology, what else happens in a passive sentence? You know, I mean, in simple terms, people would say that the subject, the object of the sentence becomes the subject of the sentence, so on and so forth, right? What is actually happening? The object of the sentence, it moves out of its position and moves to the subject position of the sentence, right? So if this process has to be facilitated, then there has to be an object in the sentence. If you do not have an object, then this process is impossible, which is why intransitive verbs, right? Intransitive verbs which do not have any object, like see or jump or eat, or no, not eat, eat is transitive. So jump, see, walk, run, right? All of these are intransitive verbs. They don't have any object. So such verbs that are intransitive in nature, they will not have a passive form. So if you have a question to make a passive sentence or choose the correct passive sentence for a sentence like he runs to catch the bus every day, will you have a passive format for that? Can you make a passive sentence for that?
No, ma'am.
No, right? Because runs is it is an intransitive verb. You don't have an object. So if there's no object, then there's no passive construction possible. Right? This is also another important thing that you need to remember. Okay, so that's all with the passive thing. We'll quickly look at the sentences here and see if you can identify the active and the passive in this. Okay. So first one, Sotheby's is auctioning a highly important collection of antiquities. Is this an active or passive form?
Active.
This is active because you look at the verb morphology here. Is auctioning. This is basically in present continuous, right? So there's no B plus V3 format. So this is an active sentence. Then in the late 1970s, a huge copper cauldron was discovered in a cellar. This is
Passive.
this is passive. You have was discovered, right? So this is B plus V3 in the past form. Then inside the cauldron were hidden a number of very beautiful objects. Active, passive? Were hidden.
No.
So
Passive form.
passive, right? Were hidden is passive, B plus V3 form, right? Then they included silver plates 2 feet across.
Active form.
Active, right? No B plus V3. This is a straightforward past and simple past tense sentence. The plates were decorated with scenes from hunting and mythology.
Then passive.
Passive, right? Passive. Apparently, the treasure was made for Suso, perhaps a high ranking officer in the Roman Empire.
Then passive.
Passive, right? Was made for Suso, right? The Lebanese authorities issued export documents for the treasure in 1981.
Active form.
Active, right? Issued export documents. Nothing has been, yeah, this is, I'm interested in knowing this. Nothing has been revealed about the discoverers. Nothing,
Passive form.
nothing has been revealed about the discoverers. So what is the verb format here? Sorry.
Has been revealed.
Sorry, what is it?
Has been revealed.
Has been revealed.
So this is what? This is active or passive. What is the subject of the sentence?
Nothing.
Nothing has been revealed about the discoverers. Is that the subject of the sentence? Look at it clearly.
Then grammatically, it will be nothing. Nothing is the subject, but
Little louder.
ma'am, for this sentence, grammatically nothing is the subject, but discoverer is the original
Okay.
agent or
So
subject.
if I ask you, this is okay. You're right. This is a passive sentence, right? Because it has a B plus B3 format. So that's right. Now tell me what would be the active form. So if I ask you what is the active form of this verb, sorry, the sentence, then how can you convert this into an active form?
The verb becomes has plus reveal.
Okay, has been revealed. So has
Has plus
revealed.
reveal.
Okay. Yes. What would be the full sentence in case?
Would it be like they haven't revealed anything about the discoverers?
Hmm. Nothing has been revealed about the discoverers. So if I want to convert this sentence into an active sentence, what do I do? Ideally, I should have both the subject and the object in the sentence, right? So my question is, do we have the subject present in the sentence here? We have the object for sure.
Then the discoverer is the subject for active sentence.
Is it really?
Yes, ma'am.
So then, okay, fine. If it is a subject, then how do you form that sentence? Tell me. If discoverers is your subject, then how do you form the active form of that sentence? So let's say I am going to look at it this way. I have discoverers, right? Discoverers is my subject, right? Then I have has revealed as my verb. And what's my object in that case?
Logically, the subject of the active passive form will become an object of it.
Now that
So
is the problem here. We know that the subject and object gets interchanged. Now, problem with this sentence is that there is something that is not available. What is not available? Subject is not available, right? And why is the subject not available? Because remember, let's look at a very simple sentence, right? So if I have the snake was killed by the boy. Snake was killed by the boy. Just look at your chat box. if I have a sentence like this, I know that I can also simply say the snake was killed, right? This is a full sentence for me. I don't have to even say by the boy, because in that sentence, by the boy is what? This is an adjunct, right? You've already learned about adjuncts and complements in the lesson on clauses. So by the boy is an adjunct because it's an optional part. I can always skip by the boy, right? That phrase I don't require. I can simply say the snake was killed in the passive format. All I need in the passive format of the sentence is to have the subject and then the passive morphology of the verb, right? So the snake was killed. That's a good sentence, good passive sentence. By the boy is an adjunct. I can always choose to not have it. Now, by the same logic, the sentence is constructed with the same logic. Nothing has been revealed about the discoverers. The sentence has decided to omit the subject. Okay, there's no subject that is mentioned. So when you form a sentence in the active form, your sentence will look something like, someone has revealed nothing about the discoverers. Okay, as someone has revealed nothing about the discoverers. Okay, because ideally it should have been nothing has been revealed about the discoverers by someone. Okay, or by somebody. We don't know who it is, right? But that by phrase, because it's an adjunct, has been omitted in this sentence. And since you don't have that by phrase, you are not able to form an active sentence here, right? We are able to form it. We can do that given the sentence had a by phrase. Okay? So technically it is possible to make it, but in this sentence, they have not given you the subject, right? So it is difficult to make. All right. Do you understand that part?
Yes, ma'am. But if the subject is asked in this sentence, it is nothing, right?
It is nothing. We do not know because it's not mentioned. If they ask you what is the subject in this sentence, then we do not know.
Okay.
We do not know. Okay. That is in the active. If they ask you to do it in the active thing, right? So in the given sentence, your subject will be nothing, right? In the given sentence. In the
Okay.
passive form, your subject is nothing. But in the active form, we don't have a subject to form the active sentence. That's the point.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Right.
Yeah. Now, next one, the discovery site has never been located. See, all these sentences are very similar in nature. So, is this passive or active? Has never been located.
It's passive.
This is passive, and we have the same problem here, right? So, there is no subject here. So, if you have a question to convert this into a passive, active sentence, then unless the subject is specified, we cannot do that. All we have is the object. So this is another example where the subject has been omitted because the by phrase is the phrase with the subject, which is the by phrase, is an adjunct. The 10th one, nobody doubts the importance of the collection. Nobody doubts the importance of the collection.
It's active form.
This is active. This is an active sentence, right? This you can easily convert to the passive format, right? How do you do that? Nobody doubts the importance of the collection. What is the passive format for this?
The importance of the collection
Uh,
is not doubted by anyone.
is doubted by nobody, right? Is
Yes,
doubted
ma'am.
by nobody. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay. 11th one, because of its strange history, several museums have rejected the collection.
Then active.
This is active, right? Have rejected is the present perfect form of the verb. So this is an active. Uh, with an expected price, last one, with an expected price of over 40 million pounds, who can afford the collection? Who can afford the
Then
collection?
It's active.
active form.
Active, right? Active. Who can afford the collection is an active construction, right? What would be the passive for this?
With an expected price of over 40 million pounds, the collection can be afforded by whom?
Who can afford the the collection can be afforded by whom?
The collection can be afforded by no one.
Okay. No. So the collection can be afforded by, so the more natural way of writing it would be with an expected price of over 40 million pounds. By whom can the collection be afforded? Okay. By whom can the collection be afforded? That would be the natural structure of the sentence, right? By
By
whom?
who should come first? Is it not at the end of the sentence?
Which one? No,
By
but
whom?
because this is a question sentence, right?
Okay.
In question sentence, ideally what is the question word has to come in the beginning, right?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So there are like little bit of a details like this as you sift through active passive. So everything need not be straightforward. They follow the same rules. The rules don't change in any of the case, but the structure of the sentence and the elements that you use to construct a sentence sometimes can bring about certain peculiarities to that, like. So, for example, in sentence number 8 and 7 and all, the difference was very glaring because of the kind of subject that you had. You had an indefinite pronoun as the subject, and in the cases where you have that, usually the tendency is to avoid using the by phrase. Okay, so avoiding by phrase here actually makes it difficult for the people to form an active sentence, which is also the case of declarative sentences like a snake was killed, right? If you have a sentence like the snake was killed and then you're asked to change it into active without giving you the by phrase, which is by the boy, it is difficult. So while it is very clear in declarative sentences like that, where your subject and everything is clearly available, with certain sentences, particularly the ones which have these indefinite pronouns and all as your subject, can be a little confusing, right? A bit confusing, not difficult. That's all. So just make a note of one or two of these sentences so that you have clarity on how the concept itself works, right? Okay, any questions in this part? So I'm done for the day. I just took this up as a revision thing because I know most of the people are good with the active and passive thing, right? So all we need to do is just look at a few questions. I hope there are no major questions or doubts in this. If you have any, you may ask, or we'll close for today.
Ma'am, the three types of non-finite clauses.
3 types of non-finite clause. About that?
Ma'am, the examples of all three types.
Can you
I
look
want.
at your chat box? I think I have given you examples. Just scroll it up. You have something at 411, right? Learning a foreign language is not easy. So one example is that, wherein you have an ing participle, learning, right? Ing. So this is an ing form of the verb. This one doesn't have a tense. Okay. And that is like the subordinate clause, which is the subject of the sentence. It's a subordinate clause, it has the ing form and it is non-finite. Okay. Then
Yes, ma'am.
just next to that, you have dressed in new clothes. That has an ed form, participle, ed participle. This is again an example of an infinitival subordinate clause. Again, this one has an ed on it, but then it is without a tense. Okay. So this is a participle form. These two are examples of the participle forms of infinitival clauses. Then another one you have is the to infinitive form, right? The examples that you saw in that exercises. To pick up, to meet, right? All of those are examples of the to infinitive form of the infinitival clause. These are the 3 varieties. If you find any of these 3 in the sentence, then you can conclude that the subordinate clause has an infinitival clause and hence it is without a tense. Okay.
Okay.
Ma'am, Ma'am, then the ing, you said ing, right? Ma'am, and then ing is this ing is called a gerund clause, right?
Yes, yes. So a technical term that people use for that is gerund. But I think for explanatory purposes, it's better that you stay at participle so that you understand what it means. Okay. Gerund doesn't, so gerund is a little different. Gerund is actually a noun form. Okay. And it has to appear on its own. So for example, swimming, right? Swimming is a health
Verb is a noun.
building activity, right? For example, if you have a sentence like this, swimming is a health building activity, right? So in this case, swimming is what? This is a gerund, okay? But in the case of learning a language, this particular sentence, copy paste. So in this case, learning a new language, here learning is not a gerund. Okay, here it is a participle form. Now, why is it not a gerund? Because if it has to act as a gerund, then it has to be a noun by itself. So swimming as an activity, the two forms. Swimming can also be a verb and swimming can also be an activity, the name of an activity, right? So if it is referred as the name of an activity, then it is a gerund, right? The ing form used as a noun. But in learning a foreign language, this is not a gerund. This is a participle. It's an ing participle. Okay, it's a verb. It's still a verb. It is not a noun. If it is used as a noun, then you can call it a gerund. If it is still used as a verb, then it is a participle form, especially in this kind of a subordinate clause. Okay. These confusions could occur because functional elements in language, especially the inflections like ing, they are used in multiple ways. So all we need to know is what are the different ways in their use. Okay, so have you understood the difference between gerunds and participles?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
asking that question.
I mean, this clause of ing form in gerund clause. I mean, ing form of the verb as a noun.
Yes.
And participle.
ing, no. So in gerund, it is a noun itself. So it has an ing, but it's a noun. Okay. But in participle form, that ing is still a verb. Okay, we are
Yes.
still using it as a verb. Okay. Just that the verb doesn't have a tense. So we call it a participle. That's all. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Is that all?
Ma'am, in the sentence, swimming is a health building activity.
Hmm.
Swimming is gerund,
Yes.
and
Yes.
okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
And in the second sentence, learning is gerund.
It's not a gerund. That's what we were saying. So for the ing form to be a gerund, it has to be a noun.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
learning, it is not a noun. It's a verb. It's a verb without a tense. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It's participle.
Yes, ma'am.
Like reading, ma'am. Like I enjoy reading. So in
I
this
enjoy reading. This is what reading is
gerund.
gerund, right? So it's a noun.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Neetu.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. All right, everyone. I'll see you next week again. Then we'll maybe most probably discuss conditionals for the next class. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you again.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, see you.